Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Modern Media Review. I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Goligly.
Before we get into today's review,
today's review?
Today's review is going to be ITV Racing and the betting ads that surround it. So maybe 13's a particularly inauspicious number for this one. But before we start, just to say, if you like what you hear, please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe there if you like. And you can also listen on iTunes, on Spotify, visit us on Facebook, and we've got a website, modernmediareview.com.
Yeah, you can also write to us or send messages by carrier pigeon.
Yeah, write to us, yeah. It's a bit like betting, isn't it? No one writes out a betting slip anymore. And
very rare, except in my local Ladbrokes.
At this time of year when CheltenhamFestival comes along, and it's one of the few times that horse racing busts into the mainstream media and is all over the front pages of the press, and there's loads of free bet offers and things like that. The bookies are all chasing the online market. They've got a lot of TV ads which not only decorate the ITV Racing broadcast, but have sort of slipped into mainstream media as well. And if you listen to talk radio or something like that, you'll hear people ostensibly jumping up and down and evacuating their bowels over how excited they are to get a free bet from Betway.
Well, don't forget, Robin, this is going to stop a little bit outside the traditional horse racing thing, is that Parliament became very worried about the plethora of bookmaker ads during football and other sports as well.
Ray Winston, disembodied head, bouncing up and down, telling you to have a combined bet on the next goal scorer, the next corner, and the
half-time.
Next bloke to get a drink at the sidelines. Absolutely absurd. So they're going to get rid of all that, aren't they?
And this whole paternalistic approach that Parliament seems to be taking is a little bit Salvation Army, a little bit Victorian in the way that, you shouldn't, we need to take this away from people. It's not like you're going into your local gin palace and then staggering into the bookies and doing your complete load on, the 425 from Catford.
What's interesting that this lot of sort of modern politicians are getting the hump about it, when it was in fact the Kirkcaldy son of the man's Gordon Brown that put it all in front of us, deregulated everything.
There is one funny aspect, Robin, to the adverts, which always makes me smile, is it's got to have like a health warning on it, like cigarettes. But the health warning for betting is a little bit different. The tagline is, when the fun stops, stop. But what happens is the bookmakers have fun in massive type.
Fun, the fun's the big one.
The fun is the big one, and stop you can hardly read it. It's in about 6 point rather than about 22 point for fun.
The thing is, I think they've misjudged the whole message, because obviously they try and promote football betting as some sort of high-five party type event, but horse race betting to me has always been a solitary pursuit, not something to do with your mates in the pub. It's not fun at all, is it?
Well, it's a bit like doing a jigsaw, I always think, is that you're trying to put pieces together to get the picture right. Now, what I tend to do with jigsaws is just hammer something into the wrong place, and I end up with something that looks like a Jackson Pollock painting.
That's how you bet, yeah.
Well, that's how it looks in the end. I think I'm doing it quite right at the start, but the picture never looks how it should do after the race is finished.
It's not much of a system, is it? Anyway, to get onto the bookie ads for Cheltenham, actually I was very disappointed because there was one that was missing. Jim McGrath, the urbane pundit Jim McGrath, has been doing a series of ads for Sky Bet with the music from Kanye West Black Skinhead on it. Did you notice those ones?
I did. Yeah.
Every time I see it, I wonder if he's ever heard Black Skinhead.
Well, I always wonder, never mind has he ever heard that, anyone looking at it, do they know who he is?
No, they probably don't know who he is, and they probably don't know what Black Skinhead is either. But I did notice, right, that I wouldn't say they've got sophisticated, right, but they've kind of split themselves into two camps. One is kind of trying to be a bit data orientated and give you
a la Betfair.
Yeah, Betfair started that really with the attempt to be intellectual and some sort of techie database thing.
However, the other flip side of the coin is that appalling Corals advert with a moronic American
bloke with a big foam hand telling the horse that he's got a 1 horsepower engine and magical lucky shoes. I mean, what do they think, these punters that are watching these ads are completely stupid?
Well, this seems to be the pitch. I mean, although having said that, if I did actually think the horse had magical lucky shoes, I might back him.
Yeah, but it turns out to be a police horse, doesn't it?
I mean, it's such a poor gag. Then that appalling tune afterwards tries to sound a bit like the darts when they finish a leg and everyone gets up and dances,
Some of the gags are appalling. The Bet Victor ad has got Harry Redknapp in it, which is a bit of a pull. He's meant to be some sort of Alexa type personal assistant, but just as he's about to give a tip to the bloke who's asking, he has to go off because he's burnt Sandra's crumpets. And then
Well,
he says, listen to Harry. What are we listening to here?
Worse than that. I mean, I can understand why they've brought Harry in because, he won I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and I've seen him quite a lot at the races, and obviously he's linked to football people. But when Harry signs off saying, yeah, Victor, I'll have that at 100 to 1, having burnt Sandra's crumpets, he's just about to burn all his cash on some no-hope 100 to 1 shot.
Again, it's just kind of treating the viewers a bit daft. Betway are trying to do the same thing where they've got two guys talking about a bet and the guy goes into his mind, and he's got a sort of mental a smart lab in his mind with a guy saying, don't listen to him, his mate. He thinks a paddock's a type of fish. What sort of joke is that? No one thinks a paddock's a type of fish. Come on, it's ludicrous.
And the
Use
worst
your
thing
brain
is,
cells,
Yeah, he's using his brain cells, but it's all hunch. They're chucking javelins at a random dartboard.
Well, then he says it doesn't matter because I get my money back if I lose on the first or last race. It's a free bet. Only up to £10, mind you.
Yeah, which is not as bad as, is it Ladbrokes who are offering you a £1 bet?
Well, Ladbrokes advert is just a brain scrambler, right? It's like Frankie Dettori jumping out of a horse. He jumps out of a horse and then he gets marked as if it's a diving or show jumping contest by some judges. And then
again, hilarious.
And then someone calls the horse, for no apparent reason, refers to the horse as Horsey McHorseface. Another weak and unoriginal gag. And then the horse says, I beg your pardon, my name is Sebastian. And it's all voiced over by someone who sounds like Brian Blessed. Who can't possibly be Brian Blessed, because is he dead?
I've no idea.
I never know if these people are dead. Dead or alive, it's got to be an impersonator, especially if he's dead.
However, it's quite interesting that Ladbrokes aren't showing the advert that they've been punting out for about the last 6 months to a year, which, unlike many of the adverts, shows women participating in them.
They've given up on women, these ads.
Well, Ladbrokes were using Kelly Brook in a very tight red dress. I don't know what they were quite going for there, but that's been dropped for Cheltenham.
Unibet, they've gone for the sort of in-the-know thing, which I had to laugh at because it said, we give you more than just the normal stuff because you're getting the inside track with Nicky Henderson. You'll give you the lowdown. Is that right? Is Nicky Henderson, trainer, going to give anyone the lowdown on anything?
Well, and also, aren't there a few other trainers also thinking that they've got decent horses running at the premier jumping event of the year?
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? You can't rely on the word of one trainer. I think the rest of them are probably trying to win it as well.
Yeah, you'd imagine.
But I mean, the point about all these ads is that there's a big thing in horse racing, isn't there, which we know about, but the general public won't be aware of, is that horse racing keeps trying to bring in the general public to a kind of enclosed world, and I guess that's what these stupid ads are trying to do, isn't it? They're trying to make it seem accessible and fun, and they're also offering you a bit of free money, supposedly, although it never really works out like that, does it? What happens is Bet365 give you an offer of have a bet on any race and we'll give you a bet on the free bet on the champion hurdle, and your first bet loses and then your free bet in the champion hurdle falls, and it's all been for nothing.
So
it's all been for minus 50 quid.
Well, I guess your free bet, like mine, went on Bouvedere.
It did, yeah.
Yeah. Although I backed the winner in running, which was all right.
Well, that's good, yeah. That was very, very shrewd, Sean.
Well, sometimes.
They've also
got
an ad about not betting, which they ran near the end of the programme after everyone had done their nuts. Which has got the ITV Racing presenters Ollie Bell and Alice Plunkett, and it's got a guy called Dominic. It's pretty gruesome, this. He's sitting in the toilet with his mobile phone.
I've seen that.
I never liked the idea of people doing things on their phone in the toilet. Imagine if you're trying to have a chat with someone and then you realise they're sitting in the toilet. It's very
a bit
insulting.
Grim.
Yeah.
Grim.
Is that all you're worth? Can they not take the time when they're not sitting there thinking, I'm on the toilet now, I've had a bet, so now I'll ring one of my mates, they won't know. Anyway, this guy's having a bet, and then suddenly his face looks all shocked because he's suddenly in the studio with Ollie and Alice, and they say something like, don't be like Dominic, flushing your money down the pan, gamble aware. Well, that is just plain weird.
Well, if I was Dominic, I'd also be looking a little bit shocked if two random people came into the cubicle while I was sitting down quite quietly.
Sure, but they're not in the cubicle. He appears in the studio. I think that's going to be more of a shock.
Teleported in there.
The other thing I noticed about the ads, actually, talking about getting people involved, maybe they actually think a new demographic is involved in racing, because totally surprisingly to me, there were some ads for cars, and not just your ordinary car ads. This was BMW, Lexus.
But Robin, they were quite strategically placed. If you notice the ads in the first few ad breaks before the Cheltenham coverage started, it was wall-to-wall bookmaker ads. However, after the first race finished, we not only got all those flash car things, but we also got Rob Brydon advertising P&O cruise ferry, cruise holidays. And I just thought if I'd had my £2.50 each way on the Willie Mullins horse in the first, I wasn't really going to be able to do a Caribbean cruise or buy a Lexus 4x4.
I'm up in Paisley. I'm split, as you know, I split my time between Brixton, Paisley and Geneva. And I'm up in Paisley this week, and I'll be going down to the pub later in the week to watch the racing one afternoon, probably on Friday. It's not the same demographic. There ain't going to be many people pulling up in Lexus or BMWs, Trying to look at it from an outsider's point of view, how are they going to enthuse people who might just be dropping in to watch it for the first time, maybe haven't had their free £1 bet with Ladbrokes? And they were talking about the shops. There's a lot of merchandising space now at the Cheltenham Festival.
Well, we've been there, so we know what it's like.
Yeah, but
I don't think I've ever bought anything there, to be honest.
Well, certainly not a Bentley. They had. I mean, there was so much wrong with this. They had Francesca Cumani, who I think is a very good and knowledgeable presenter, with Alice Plunkett. That's a bit bad, isn't it? Because they'd sent the two girls off to do this.
Send the two girls, they'll cover this sort of stuff. If it's anything to do with clothes, hats or cars, let the girls do it.
So they went off and they were
the old boys can keep talking about the racing.
They went to the Bentley shop and they were sitting in a Bentley and they were saying, "Oh, isn't this great? It's celebrating 100 years of Bentleys." And Francesca actually said, "Yes, it's so 1920s, isn't it?" And I thought, number one, right, empathy, identification in Bentley showrooms doesn't really work. And number two is the last thing you want to be saying is, "This is great, it's so 1920s."
When we're in the 21st century.
It's 100 years ago. I mean, I started watching the broadcast and I was looking at it, as I said, from this point of how's
Well, Richard Hoyles didn't help us start off, did he?
Well, no, because he said, I mean, okay, you can't do much about the weather, but he said it's a dank winter's day with plenty of moisture in the air. And I thought, that just doesn't make it sound very attractive, And then I think something difficult for the casual punter to comprehend. The first three races were all false starts. Absolutely farcical. And they had to do a standing start. But they never explain why.
This is one of the problems that racing has got, because even though they're trying to reach out to a new audience, they're still stuck in, well, so many people are still stuck in this idea of it's a club, it's got its own language, it's a little bit nice to be talking about stuff that no one else knows anything about. And even the dress sense at Cheltenham is frankly ludicrous. I like going to the darts, and part of the darts thing is getting dressed up in fancy dress. And you're doing it for fun, and it's a laugh and a day out and all the rest of it. But these people are totally serious in their salmon pink cords and tweed waistcoat, tweed overcoat, tweed jacket, tweed hat, tweed shoes, tweed socks. What is going on with this?
Tweed underpants.
Underpants, but that's for a different reason.
They're very comfortable, but you become inured to all this, don't you? You get used to it if you go racing regularly. But I had a mate of mine who was a photographer who'd been commissioned to take some pictures for the covers of John Francombe racing novels. So we drove down to Newbury. It was just to take some random racing photos. This was in the middle of the jump season. And he'd never been. And we got out of the car and he saw all these tweedsters knocking about. And he actually burst out laughing and said, "What is this? Is it not fancy dress?" He said, is this a uniform? And I thought, God, I'd never really thought about it. They look absolutely absurd with those oversized caps.
Yeah, well, I was at Newbury Races one day and just heading up to have a bet, and Ian Duncan Smith walked past me, and he was resplendent in, well, all I can say is a very bright green tweed, and he had the whole lot on, including sensible big brown brogue walking shoes. And it all looked so brand new. It looked like he was posing. Do you remember the old catalogues where you used to buy your stuff on the Never Never?
Yeah.
He looked like one of those sort of guys that was wearing shoes that were so straight it was unbelievable, and had not a crease in his brand new outfit. I mean, it looked totally bizarre.
There must be a shop somewhere that we don't know about selling this stuff.
Yeah.
Because these people turn up, as you said, in Ian Duncan Smith style, brand new tweed and leather shoes that haven't been broken in. Where are they buying all this stuff? Nowhere around my way.
Certainly not.
I mean, this is a problem with, they're trying to make it modern, and they have done a lot to make racing more modern. I'm not criticising some of the efforts, but there's something that is almost, they can't help, which especially with jump racing, which is that it's just ridiculously bucolic and countrified. Instead of the kind of glamour of the Formula One paddock.
Or even Royal Ascot, say.
Yeah, but all they can do at Cheltenham is they have a load of shots of, when they're talking about the track, they have a load of shots of people in wellies or muddy boots stamping on the ground.
Squelching about. And the thing is, they have got some modern technology to a certain extent in the going stick, which gives you a proper reading on how they're going, or, you know, if the ground is soft,
they don't like
heavy, or fast.
They don't like it. It's far too modern for them. They don't like that. They like Luke Harvey standing beside a hurdle saying it's getting very soft and stamping on the ground.
And this is part of the problem, which, in fairness to ITV, they did a jargon busting section as well, because so much of racing is archaic. Even the odds, Robin, you know, when you're not using decimal odds, if you said to somebody 85 to 40, or, you know, 11 to 8...
Well, I think a lot of people don't even know it's all based on the old money. So,
yes,
11 to 10, that's like you bet 10 shillings and you got back a guinea, which is 21 shillings.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's so redundant. I mean, it'd be so much simpler if it was just digital odds, really.
Don't talk like that to the traditionalists, mate. They did try it once at Ascot for one day, and then they went, that won't work. And stopped again.
Like giving things, you know. At least they gave it a chance, Robin.
Well, there was an interview in the Racing Post last year where they had a student who was taken for a day at the races to try and ascertain what it was about racing that made it unfathomable to people. And I think this guy had the greatest quote about racing I've heard in recent years, which, as they came up to the furlong pole, which is the pole with a furlong left to the finish line, he just said, "What's a furlong?"
Well, exactly.
Why should he know?
Well, you don't say, I'm just popping out to the shops. I think it's about 2 furlongs.
Well, you never know, though. After Brexit, we might get them back.
Which would be an improvement, really, because I like 220 yards.
Yeah, I don't understand these metres anyway.
No.
Also,
it's not like anyone else uses it, is it?
It would do away with one of my biggest bugbears about Britain, which is the way people pronounce kilometre. They say kilometre. How can it be a kilometre? It's a kilometre. No one says millimetre or centimetre, do they? How did this pronunciation arrive? Anyway, sorry for that. It's just a thing of mine.
Frankly pretentious, I think.
It's just a thing of mine, but
I
got off the track here. Again, talking about bringing people in.
Just the one thing on that, Robin, that I did, I think that ITV have been quite good at in bringing in a few new things is much more jockey cams and much more interviews with the jockeys post-race and pre-race as well, to be frank.
But they only really did it for the... They only really did it for the Champion hurdle.
And Ruby Walsh, who is one of the stars of racing, who I would really like to hear a lot more from, because when he's interviewed about the horses, he gives some decent insights. But
you wouldn't have wanted to hear a lot more from him yesterday. I've never...
No,
he rode a horse called Lorena, didn't he? Who was well backed for the Champion hurdle and never really seemed to be in the race. So, unfortunately, he came in for these interviews and you could see him standing in the background looking extremely...
pissed off, I'd say.
Well, worse than miserable, absolutely livid in the true sense of the word. I think it means lead-coloured, the original derivation of it. And he came up to do his interview with Luke Harvey, who's an ex-jockey and is deemed a bit of an expert, isn't he?
And a very affable man.
Yes, and Luke said to him, "She travelled like a dream, didn't she?" And he went, "No, she didn't." And then he said something like, "It's cobblers to think I was going well," and stomped off. And I just thought, that is a bad advert for the sport. There's a few characters like that in racing, isn't there? Because Ryan Moore's well known for saying this is bollocks and stuff when he's asked to do something he doesn't want, like line up in a parade.
Well, you're doing well to get 3 words out of Ryan, which is a pity because he's such a talented jockey. When you think about the difference between him and Frankie Dettori, and don't forget that Frankie in his day presented Top of the Pops.
Yeah, I can't see Ruby Walsh or Ryan Moore presenting Top of the Pops.
Here's number 1, and it's a load of bollocks. Cobblers, that's what this one is.
Well, they all need media training. Although I would say that, talking about celebration, never sure about the logistics of this. They must be filming more than one set of connections when they show them. Oh, sorry.
Oh, definitely.
Sorry, connections, that's a technical term. meaning owners and people connected with the horse.
Yeah.
Because then later on they'll show you them leaping up and down and screaming their head off as the horse comes to win the race. And I always think these people look sort of unhinged and they don't look like what you'd normally associate with that sort of celebration, like football fans. There's something a bit mental about them. They don't look like normal people. They look like a completely different breed. Maybe it's because they're all wearing hats or something. I don't know.
It's probably because they're all in tweed. I'd tell you what would be funny, a bit like the celebrations in the summer with the England football team getting to the semi-finals, is you'd never get this, but if they went down to the Guinness village and just saw people with Guinness going up in the air after something had won, I think I'd quite enjoy that.
I thought, did they not used to do that?
Well, it can be a bit difficult because later in the afternoon, the Guinness village is a place where you wouldn't be sure what might happen.
No, you don't. There's a lot of kind of social carnage at racing that they do well to avoid.
Although you'll see it all, probably not so much at Cheltenham, but you'll see it all the next day at Aintree in the Daily Mail. After the Daily Mail have been punting out free bets on the Grand National the day before and saying how fantastic it is and all the rest of it, they get the toast buttered on both sides after this.
Yeah, because they've got moral outrage about the antisocial hooligan-esque behaviour.
Yeah.
I noticed that I was reading The Guardian yesterday and the comments on one of the Cheltenham articles, and there was so many people on there ranting about fighting at the racetrack and too many beard up people, and then there was a sub-debate which was really interesting from people saying, no mate, that's not booze, that's cocaine. And they all seemed very well informed, and then someone came on and said, you can tell by the different glaze in people's eyes, and at
Really?
the racecourse there's a mix of booze and cocaine. You can see it in their eyes. Boozed up fighters are terrible fighters, but people who've also taken cocaine,
they can handle themselves.
They can
much
really
better.
go for it. My theory was
bizarre.
this: these young fellas that fight at the racetracks, it's not just booze and cocaine. I think they're all sort of the kind of guys who take steroids at the gym as well, because they look they look muscled up. They look pissed, cocaine aggressive, and somewhat steroidy fit.
And I don't want to sound like a football chairman or a politician from the 1980s who say it's society's problem, but I'm sure people aren't just going to the races to have a scrap. I mean, I'm sure they're scrapping on a Saturday night wherever, outside Ritzy's nightclub, although I'm sure it's not called Ritzy's anymore.
I don't know, these people see the racetrack as a place to go for a day out where there's some racing in the background, I think. Anyway, someone who doesn't need media training is Matt Chapman.
Oh my goodness.
How do you describe Matt Chapman if people don't know him?
It would also be describing him in terms of a man that you probably don't know either, which is John McCririck, who used to be the betting expert on Channel 4 and was a bit eccentric and would say things that you would think, ooh, that was a bit close to the bone, or...
Yes, Matt's like a young version of that. I'm sure he wouldn't be happy to hear you say that.
No, he wouldn't. I think he'd like you to say he's a young version of Matt Goss from Bros.
I don't think he'd like that either.
Well, he looks like it to me.
Anyway, he's sort of very vibrant, enthusiastic, and sometimes overexcitable.
Yes.
But normally he's in the betting ring talking about the gambling, but this year they've put him in something a bit contrived called the Social Stable, where he's got a big screen just like they have in the new Alan Partridge series, and he shows you tweets and pictures of people's dogs and stuff. I think he's a bit wasted in there, and interviewing people wearing stupid clothes like the bloke in the rainbow suit, which seems to be some sort of another compulsory thing about racing, where a certain number of people turn up wearing ludicrous clothes they've had specially made.
Well, it shows you that they're just a bit mad and a bit eccentric, I'm just that type of guy, or just that type of girl.
Just a wacky kind of guy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, which as soon as you get trapped next to them in a bar, they're going to bore the arse off you.
But the thing is, Matt was doing this stuff, showing tweets of, as I said, pictures of people's dogs, and it actually got to the stage of wishing well. Mary Byrne from Kildare, we wish you well, because she tweeted in to say she was watching the show. I mean, it was all beginning to sound a bit like... But Peter Alice-y.
Yeah, and they'll really enjoy that race down at the Tunrury Bar in Dundrum. The other thing about the Social Stable, Robin, was that it was supposed to be interactive, but most of the comment and chat was coming from just a load of people gathered round the screen.
I mean, I think they've got a bit of a problem with broadening it out with, Royal Ascot maybe, or the Derby. They tend to get more modern-day 21st century celebs, don't they? But... Cheltenham and jump racing seems to be stuck with Fergie, who at least it was good to see him alive. Jeremy Kyle, who owns racehorses,
who I've got to say always makes me want to turn off.
Richard Hammond,
ditto.
Again, there's no one cool. There's no one like Stormzy or Giggs there, is there?
No.
They haven't managed to kind of get in tune with the social zeitgeist, have they? The celebrity zeitgeist. They even had Elizabeth Hurley.
Which is a little bit 1990s.
Well, yeah, the whole thing is a bit 1990s.
And also, which does stick in my craw a little bit, is that I don't mind a sprinkling of celebrities, but when I think how much the tickets cost to Cheltenham, I'm pretty sure they're getting in for nothing.
You think?
Yeah, just guessing. The other thing I was going to say, just as we're sort of like signing off, is that this whole, getting back to this whole Salvation Sally Army concern about people betting and losing money and all the rest of it, I always think that if you start complaining about losing money, just do a bit more work and get better at it.
Exactly. Just like we should do with this podcast.
Yeah, very true.
So anyway,
I'm going to blame you for that because it's not my fault, obviously.
It's the racing's about to start, Sean, so I think we need to wrap this up because for all the pros and cons, I'm going to continue watching Cheltenham this week, and we will be back next week, hopefully.
Touchwood, as millionaires, obviously. Driving 4x4 Lexus and having booked a P&O cruise to the Caribbean.
Yes, actually, saying we'll be back next week is a bit presumptuous, isn't it? We might not be back next week if things go better than they did on day one.
Well, they need to.
On that hopeful financial note, we'll sign off and say thanks for listening and good night.
Catch you next time.
Bye.